Kimchi doesn't always need weeks before it can be enjoyed. While fermentation still takes time, how you prepare the cabbage can influence the flavor and texture early on. Rather than leaving the cabbage whole, we give the cabbage a coarse chop, giving us smaller pieces and a bright, fresh flavor profile. This phenomenal go-to Mat Kimchi can be enjoyed as soon as the next day.
By the way, this lesson is from our Korean Basics with Oma class, out now on ATK classes on the America's Test Kitchen app. In this class, best-selling cookbook authors Sarah Ahn and Nam Soon Ahn break down a Korean meal into its essential elements, from kimchi and jang to proteins and panchan. You'll learn about the ingredients you'll need to build a Korean pantry, as well as how to shop for them. And you'll put them to work in a number of exciting recipes. Learn at your own pace and have fun while you do it. But first, let's make kimchi.
So the first thing we're going to do is make an umami-rich broth, and the reason why we start this now is because we need time for it to cool. So the first thing we're going to add is some water. That's 3 cups of water. And then we're going to add half the onion, half an ounce of dashima, which is dried kelp, half an ounce of dried large anchovies that we gutted beforehand, and a 1/4 ounce of dried large eyed herring, which you can find at the Korean market or online. And bring this to a boil. All right, so now that it's at a boil, we're going to reduce it to a vigorous simmer and set a timer for 10 minutes. We're going to start off with 6 pounds of napa cabbage, and you're going to peel off the outer loose leaves. This is going to cover the kimchi once we're done. Now we're going to turn the cabbage upside down and cut it through halfway. And once you cut it halfway, you're going to tear it apart with your hands. Working with 1/2 at a time, cut it so it's about 1.5 inches wide. Cut around the core and discard the core. If it's mostly white ribs like you see here, break it in half crosswise. Delayer the cabbage and move all of this to the basin. Repeat the same steps with the second half. So cut it so it's about 1.5 inches wide. And then you're going to delayer the cabbage and again break off any of these white parts that are long and thick. Now let's head on over to the sink to give this a wash. The purpose of rinsing the cabbage here is not to get rid of its dirt, but so that the salt sticks onto the cabbage. So what we're going to do is thoroughly rinse the cabbage so that every layer is wet and coated, and then you're going to drain off the excess water. Once all of that is complete, working in batches, grab a handful of the cabbage and put it into the basin and sprinkle a generous amount of salt. We're using 3/4 of a cup total. Repeat putting the batches of cabbage into the basin and sprinkling with salt until the salt is completed. And then give the cabbages a nice mix and pat down. The primary reason why we're salting here is so that we take out the moisture out of the cabbage. We do that so that the seasoning for the kimchi doesn't become diluted. We're also seasoning the cabbage here so that it has just the right amount of saltiness to it. And let the salted cabbage sit for about an hour, mixing halfway through. Once the broth simmered for about 10 minutes, give it a strain. Let this completely cool down. We're going to reserve 1 cup to use for our flour paste. Freeze the other cup for your next batch of kimchi. This is the 1 cup of reserved anchovy broth. We're going to go ahead and add that into a saucepan, along with 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour that you're going to whisk in until it's completely dissolved. We're whisking this together while it's cold, off heat, so that we get rid of any lumps. Bring it to a boil, whisking constantly. Once it boils, reduce the heat to a simmer and constantly whisk for about a minute until it thickens. Remove from the heat and let it cool completely. All right, so we salted the cabbage, we just made the flour paste, and now we're going to go on to seasoning the kimchi. The first thing we're going to add is some Asian pear juice. That's 1/2 cup of fresh Asian pear juice. You can find Asian pears at the Korean market, and you can find Asian pear juice online. And then you're going to add in some salted fermented shrimp, also known as seojot. That's 5 tablespoons of seojot. This adds a nice umami saltiness to the kimchi. And then the remaining onions from earlier. Add that all to a blender, add the lid, and we're going to blend. Blend for 20 seconds until it's about smooth. When the cabbage is fully brined, we're going to now rinse it and remove its dirt and the excess water that is secreted. Transfer the cabbage to the basin and submerge in water and agitate them, then transfer back to the colander and drain. You can repeat this once more if you want to really remove the dirt, which we suggest doing. Now let the cabbage drain for 30 minutes. Wash and dry the basin because we're going to use that to season the kimchi. All right, so now it's time to season the kimchi where we dump everything in. First thing we'll add is 3 ounces of mustard greens, 5 green onions, the shrimp blend that we made earlier. Make sure you scrape all of that because this is the umami powerhouse. We're now going to add the flour paste, which is now thickened and cooled down. Some plum extract syrup, that's 3 tablespoons. This is known as michoung. It adds a multi-dimensional sweetness, along with 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of granulated sugar, 7 tablespoons of minced garlic, 1.5 teaspoons of grated fresh ginger, 4 Fresno chilies that's been stemmed and finely chopped, and 3/4 cup of gochugaru. If you wish, wear some gloves and mix with your hands. Mix until it's thoroughly combined, but be sure to not overmix. When you mix, it's very important that you toss up and rub your hands across the cabbage to evenly coat each piece with the seasoning. The reason why you don't want to overmix is because if you overmix, it's going to secrete more liquid from the cabbage, which we don't want because that would dilute the seasoning. If you're curious why there's flour paste in here, that thickened paste helps everything stick to the cabbage. It's kind of like the glue that helps the seasoning stick to these pieces, and without it, it wouldn't ferment right as well. Reserve the outer leaves. We're going to use these leaves to cover the kimchi once we place it into our container. So this is a kimchi container. Don't worry if you don't have one. You can just use any airtight container. But if you are interested in getting a kimchi container, you can find it at Korean markets or online. These containers are specifically made just for kimchi, and they help kimchi ferment optimally. With those outer leaves, you're going to place it on top, and this helps seal in the kimchi so that it ferments well. It also looks pretty. We do like to put it in a zigzag motion. This just makes it so that every single leaf fits perfectly. With the last leaf, my mom likes to scrape up every bit of the kimchi seasoning. We do recommend you do that because this seasoning is absolutely pivotal for good kimchi. Then just simply unravel that last leaf and you're done. Cover with the lid. Place somewhere cool around 50 to 70 degrees. You want to let this sit for about 24 hours until the liquid pools. If your kitchen is a little warmer, we do recommend checking on the kimchi after 3 hours. The kimchi has fermented for just about 24 hours. As you guys can see, the kimchi is plump, it's still very fresh, and there's not too much liquid because we didn't overmix. Let's give it a taste test. Cheers. It should taste punchy, refreshing, and everything you want in kimchi. This is Mat Kimchi. If the idea of making kimchi at home feels intimidating, then this is the right recipe for you. After one bite, you'll know that these ingredients were worth seeking out. Sweet, sour, salty, and spicy, this overnight Mat Kimchi hits all the flavor notes.
Now that you know how to make a quicker version of kimchi, you're ready to take the next step. And with ATK classes, you'll get access to a wide variety of lessons filled with masterful techniques, helpful videos, and step-by-step photos, from knife skills and making hand-rolled pasta to baking and frosting incredible cakes and so much more. Download the America's Test Kitchen app and start learning with ATK classes today.